So today's video will be about installing and configuring the NSX-T controllers. So we first start with the OVF deployment. Let's select the file, the controller. Let's give it a nice name. Let me copy that. So I'm going to choose the storage where I want to store it. And VLAN 101, which is my management VLAN for this lab. And now I'm going to configure the passwords. First one is the admin password, the other one is the audit, and we also have a CLI password. Again, I will leave the username blank, just to keep it default. Now the other settings is my DNS server and my local domain search list or domain name. In my case this is NSX-T.local. Now the network configuration, so the default gateway, which is the 10.100.1.93 in my case, the .1, and the 10.100.1, no sorry, the 10.100.1. I think it's 80, yes it is. No, it's just /24, 255.255.245.0. And I want to enable SSH. And my NTP server is the IP address that I just mentioned, is 10.100.1.93. Hit next. Let's do a quick check if everything's okay. I think it is. So let's go finish. And you will see that the OVF package is imported and deployed. So let's do the second controller. Basically the same configuration parameters. The name is different and the IP address is different. Also the same storage. And again, network 101. Same rules apply here. I'm using the same password everywhere, just for simplicity purposes. Gateway is still the same, 10.100.1.1. And this is the second controller. The IP address will end with 81 because the first one was 80. And let's enable SSH again and the NTP server. Oh, I think I made a mistake somewhere. I think it's that one. Oh, I think the password doesn't match with the first one. First entry, so let's do that again. Yeah, there you go. Let's do a quick check. Yeah, probably okay. Is it next? And now the second controller is off for deployment. And now the last controller. This has another name ending with 3. Same storage, same network. And again, the same passwords again. So this IP address will end with 82 because the first one was 80, the second one was 81, and this one is 82. Now you may notice that my NTP server has the same IP address as my DNS server. That's because it's the same server. This looks right. And the third controller is deployed at this point. So we have 3 controllers right now, fully deployed. Now we can see the controller 1, the controller 2 and 3. So let's power them up and let's enable the console or open the console to look at how they're booting. So that's the last one. Let's go to the first one. That was powered on at first. There you go. We can log in. Let's check if the second one is ready. And the second one is ready as well. Let's go to the third one. There you go. So they're ready to log in. So let's first, before we start do anything, let's start add these controllers to DNS so we can manage them more easily. So let's open the DNS console. I'm using Windows DNS Manager for that. As you can see, I already created the DNS zone, and there's already something in for the NSX Manager, for the ESXi hosts, and for the Active Directory server. So let's start with adding the first controller. Well, I forgot, I still have it under my paste. Okay, this IP address is 10.100.1.80. So this one is added. Let's add the second one. .81, and the third one, .82. So my controllers are currently added to the DNS server. So let's try to test this if I'm able to reach them with a simple ping test. That one is working. Let's test the second one. Also working. Now the last one. Perfect. This looks good. So before we do anything, let's log into the NSX Manager through SSH. No, we are first going to add in the controllers and PuTTY to access them through SSH a little bit later. So let's add them all three. This is the first one. Second one. It's safe. And the last one. Controller number 3. Let's log in with SSH to the NSX Manager. Now, in order to add in the controllers or map the controllers to the NSX Manager, we need to do the following command: get certificate API thumbprint. And if you do that, you will get a thumbprint. We need to copy this thumbprint and use it when we're joining the controller or controllers to the NSX Manager. So let's log into the first controller. Now, the command that we're going to use to join this controller to the NSX Manager, let me just move the window a little bit over, is join. 10.100.1.1.173, which is the NSX Manager. Username admin. And then thumbprint. And then the thumbprint that we have over there. That's it, enter. See what happens. Now we need to type in the password, obviously. Let's do that. And it will take a few seconds, so we wait. There you go, node successfully registered and controller restarted. So we need to repeat this step as well for the second and the third controller. So let's do that. Now before we do that, let's first do the command get managers. So we just a quick verification step to see if it's actually connected. And it is. So let's add in the second and the third controller now. Same command with the same thumbprint. And again, the node successfully registered and controller restarted to get managers. And again, this controller is also connected to the manager. So now the last one. No, same command, join management plane, the IP address of the NSX Manager. With the username admin. And then thumbprint, and then the thumbprint of the NSX Manager. Let's do the quick verification. Get managers. And this is also connected. So my next step is to log into the NSX Manager GUI to see if the controllers actually show up. Let's go to the dashboard. And there I see two controllers, the 80 and the 82. The 81 is missing. So let's do a refresh. Let me think. Yeah, let's do a refresh. So Yeah, there you go. So the 81 has just appeared over there. So you can see that you can see the 3 controllers now, which is my controller cluster, and you can see that the manager connection is up, but the cluster status is actually down. So why is that? Well, we need to make sure that we form the cluster. So how do we do that? We basically let's do an additional verification command. We can see that the management cluster is stable, but the controller cluster is unstable, which basically tells us the same thing that we see in the GUI. So we need to go to the controller that we want to be the master, and for simplicity reasons, we're going to select the first one for now. And we need to make sure that this one will become the master, and we need to make sure that the other controllers are joined to the master. So how are we going to do that? We issue a command here. First of all, we need to make sure that we do the command set control cluster security, and the security model is a shared secret, and if I hit enter now, it will ask me to type in that secret. I will do that. The secret needs to be the same on all clusters. So we also need to initialize the control cluster, and that's what we're doing right now. And the control cluster initialization is successful. So let's look at the status. It takes a while, and here we go. We see that, well, the connection is there. It's connected. So if I hit refresh on the GUI, and we scroll through, oh, there it's still showing up as down. Let me look again. Maybe I need to refresh again. There you go. So the first controller is showing control status or cluster status is up right now. So it's up. And the other two are still down. Well, in order to make sure that these two are actually joined to the cluster, we need to join these 2 additional controllers to the first controller. And the way how we do that is to go to the we first of all need to set the cluster, the control cluster here, security, and type in the same password. And it's important to use the same password as we've done for the first controller. It says that the security secret is successfully set on this node. So now we need to get the thumbprint of this specific controller. And we will use this thumbprint to register to the master. Let's go to the first controller, which is the master now. what we're actually saying here. Is that we're joining the control cluster with the IP address of the second controller, which is 81, and the thumbprint of that second controller. Let's hit enter. And it's giving you a message that the node has successfully joined the control cluster. Please run activate control cluster on the new node. So we will wait with that. Let's first add in, well, do the same for the third controller. So let's set a secret password. Let's get the thumbprint right now. And use that same thumbprint, or well, that same thumbprint, the thumbprint of the third controller, of course, with the IP address of the third controller to register it. And there you go. So we still need to issue the two commands, or one command on the two controllers, the activate control cluster. So let's do that on the second controller and see what happens. Let's do it on the third controller. We see the message control cluster activation is successful, and I'm expecting the same for the third controller. There you go. So if I'm correct, the control cluster is now fully created and working with each other. Let's do another command on the master, get control cluster status, and let's hit enter. And if I'm correct, we should be able to see all three controllers as active, and they are. So something's good. Now let's do a quick verification in the GUI as well. I don't even have to refresh it. It says up, 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 up. So that means that everything is okay now. So one important thing that I want to mention is that if we have three controllers, you see them, you see my full lab over there. We have three controllers. It means that we also need to make sure that we create anti-affinity rules to make sure that these controllers end up on a different host. Right now I will not show that because I don't have enough hosts to put them on, because this is a nested environment, but it's important to do that. Thank you for watching. In my next video I'm going to deploy and configure the NSX-T edges.